This is Jumping In, the short-form series of the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each week, I have the opportunity to speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge. Our long-form series has been an opportunity to go deep, unpack all aspects of our guest and their story. For Jumping In, just like our Jedburgh teams of World War II, I want to get on and off the drop zone fast. I want to catch up with previous guests, give my opinion on what's happening in the world, and uncover some of today's most pressing issues. The entire Jedburgh Podcast is sponsored by Jersey Mike Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving back and building community together. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Green Beret Foundation, supporting America's Special Forces and their families.
Sarah, you're completely missing out right now. I'm here with Ryan and Mark. Right? They run the parade here in New York City. We are gearing up for this thing and just kick it off because we're going to release this teaser episode with these two guys. We're going to talk about everything we're doing. I am sitting here on the corner of Broadway and Fifth Avenue, and we've taken it over, set up our podcast studio. You can't be here because you're in California at ESPN, but when you get here next week, don't worry. I'm going to have everything ready for you.
That's right, Fran. I had to make a quick stop in Ojai, California, so that I could celebrate professional, amateur athletes out here at ESPN Women in Sports. But have no fear, I will be sitting there with you at that intersection or close to it. Try not to get run over next week. I can't wait for it. So there you are. Here I am, and next week, here we are, our 2022 Veterans Day theme. I can't wait to be with you.
Guys, that's our theme. It's going to be Here We Are. We're going to hear us talking all about it over the next week because it's about being present. Real quick, what do we have to look forward to?
The 103rd New York City Veterans Day Parade. It's going to be a full-blown parade. We're recovering after COVID. This is a full rebound this year. 100% parade, over 20,000 marchers, veterans of every generation going back to World War II.
And you're the man responsible for putting this thing all together.
If you see me on Veterans Day, I will probably be screaming at you. But no, this is this is the spot. It's going to be a fantastic event. It's bigger than it's ever been actually coming back from COVID. So we're super excited and super excited to see you guys as well on the day of. So can't wait.
All right, Sarah, there's about a 0% chance what we're doing here is legal. So I'm going to let you get back to it because I got to finish my conversation with these guys. And then I'm going to show you where Chad 1000X is going to be here in a little bit.
That sounds good, Fran. You keep walking that gray line between legal and whatever the other thing is.
It's about greatness. That's what we talk about every single episode.
Awesome.
All right, we'll see you here.
A lot's changed for veterans in the military as America's ended 20 years of continuous conflict in the global war on terror. The war might be over and the military headlines will probably fall below the fold, but I assure you that the mission of our service members, past and present, continues. Veterans Day is here, and here we are, present in the moment, living our potential. And for this episode, live in guerrilla style from a picnic table on Fifth Ave and Broadway in the heart of New York City. This Veterans Day, the Jedburgh Podcast is covering the parade from the back of our 1944 Dodge WC-51 podcast studio, live from the red carpet. So to kick it off, I traveled to Madison Square Park to meet with the parade organizers Mark Otto and Ryan Hegg from the United War Veterans Council. UWVC has been the steward of the parade for decades and continues to honor the service of our veterans past, present, and future. Mark, Ryan, and I cover the history of the parade, the meaning of the route up Fifth Avenue, and what we have to look for this year as the parade gets back to 100% strength after COVID restrictions. My guest co-host for the Veterans Day series is Army veteran, founder of FitFighter and Shark Tank winner Sarah Apgar. Sarah was my guest on episode 51 and is joining me in the back of the truck on the red carpet to interview all the most prominent parade guests, volunteers, and participants. But since Sarah was at ESPN in California for our Fifth Avenue conversation yesterday, I took a minute to dial her in for a quick promo and let her know what she was missing. The parade's only a couple of days away, so you still have time to make the trip to New York to be part of the action. Join Sarah and I and the rest of the Jedburgh team bright and early at the Eternal Light Flagstaff for Chad 1000X and stay for the parade. Sign up on our Eventbrite page, Chad 1000X, at the New York City Veterans Day Parade. Get involved in the Veterans Day Parade and the United War Veterans Council at uwvc.org. Check out my conversation with Mark and Ryan from the center of Manhattan's Flatiron District on our YouTube channel. Hear more of our conversations on your favorite podcast platforms and at jedburghpodcast.com. Follow us on all social media at Jedburgh Podcast. Start training with FitFighter Sarah Apgar and the Steel Hose at fitfighter.com and join the action on social media at FitFighter. We'll see you at the parade.
Mark, Ryan, welcome to the Jedburgh Podcast from literally almost in the center of the street in the Flatiron District. on the corner of Broadway and Fifth Avenue. This is ground zero for the Veterans Day Parade. We've taken this corner by force. This may or may not be legal, so I think we're on the clock to get this conversation knocked out.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have some authentic traffic going by, so if you get like a random fire truck, we're here in New York.
No, this is it. We're in the center of it. So let's talk for a second about the parade, okay? So we got November 11th. This parade has been in existence since the armistice after World War I. Talk for a second about the importance of that and what it means to be here on the corner of Broadway and Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, so everyone knows that the New York City Veterans Day Parade is tied to the armistice, which turned into Armistice Day and then Veterans Day. For us, we are the stewards of the parade. We are the United War Veterans Council, so you probably envision like many, many people coming together. But actually our team is 4 people, and we move 25,000 people every year, simply because so many people come together from the veterans community to support us and volunteer their time, many hundreds of hours, to participate and to make this parade happen.
And you talked earlier about sort of your theme is being present, right? Being here. And I think really that's what this parade's all about, right? If you think about, there have been veterans marching on this route since Armistice Day, since before, actually. This was the welcome home route for World War I. And over 100 years of that, so think of the millions of veterans that have come up this route. So we're in that spot. So we're here just as they were here. So it's really a celebration of that continuity, of that tradition, and it's just an honor to be a part of it. And it's fun. It's going to be great. It's Veterans Day is celebratory. It's commemorative. But it's also, where we celebrate our living veterans, and it's a New York City institution, and it's just a great thing to be a part of.
We shot a promo a couple of minutes ago that will air with Sarah Apgar. You guys haven't met her in person, but you will here next week. So Sarah is going to be the co-host, my co-host for the Jedburgh Podcast. We're calling Jedburgh Podcast by FitFighter. So was on my guest on episode 51, and now she's the founder of FitFighter. Won Shark Tank a couple of years ago with an investment from Daniel Lubetsky, the founder of Kind. And an Army veteran. And so really excited to have her. She came up with this theme, as you mentioned, Ryan, of here we are.
Here we are. Yeah.
And here we are, we're gonna say that a lot as we go through our series of episodes, and we'll talk in a second about who we're gonna have on some of these episodes, or at least who at this point we're trying to get on and how we're gonna actually do this. But you're absolutely right. We are coming into a time right now where we've spent 20 years at war, and veterans have been a top line issue for so many conversations. In news business, you call it top of the fold. When people used to read newspapers, we all remember when people used to read newspapers, right? The top story was above the fold, and you had to flip it over for everything else. But the military, in many ways, is barring some conflict that we may or may not enter into, is going to drop below that fold. And UWVC has been instrumental throughout time, really. And in a second, I want to ask you about the impact of Vince McGowan and the McGowan family and what they've done for this organization, the city, and UWVC. But UWVC is in such a great position to ensure that the legacy of the parade continues, whether or not the military is in the news, but also that we honor all those who've served from every generation of conflict, as well as those who are serving now. So talk for a second about what UWVC has done to keep the parade relevant through these cyclical times.
You the old timer, you want to take
I'm
this?
the old timer. I stepped into the offices of the parade in 2002, and I was by far the youngest guy there, right? I mean, we just, 9/11 had just happened a year before, and we were on the cusp of seeing a new generation of veterans. Then the Iraq War started in 2003, and then we knew here it comes. But the United War Veterans Council, it's exactly right, Fran, is that our job, not just stewards of the parade, but to keep veterans in the conversation, because the founders of this organization, Vietnam veterans, and even veterans of Mark generation, we saw that what happens when the wars fade into the past, right? We see the parade faded, the attention of the public, get a little spike around Desert Storm, but kind of went away again. And then you don't want to have to rebuild that every time. So I think our goal with the parade is to maintain relevance. veterans and military aren't going to be the number one priority for everybody all the time, but it should always be a priority. And if we do that, I think we've succeeded. And I think, in the larger scheme of things, just there's a million small ways we can point to that. But even just here in New York City, until very recently, we didn't have a Department of Veteran Services, the high-level city agency. And it's not a stretch to say, and I'll say it, and I know there's many individuals in the community who will say this, we probably would not have one if we did not have the tens of thousands of veterans marching in the streets, demonstrating to our elected leaders that this was a constituency that needed service, that deserved service, and was sizable. So it serves a real function other than celebratory, and it's an honor to be a part of it, and it's great to also not just celebrate, but to feel like you're being a part of the puzzle that's building something and maintaining something for the future.
And it's the largest veterans event in the country. Talk for a second about who do we have to look forward to this year marching in the parade? Because it's people of all backgrounds.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I always love to pay tribute to the generations before me. So I fought in Panama, I fought in Desert Storm. I'm sixth of my family to serve in war that go back to World War I. But some of my favorite people that I get to see each year is I have a friend who's 101 years old that flew 35 B-52, B-24 missions in Japan. So it's amazing to see Walter coming back year after year. He's 101 years old now, and he's coming back. But, you see people from every generation of veterans, from World War II to Korea to Vietnam to Desert Storm and so on. But they are the celebrities. They are the ones that we're honoring. The active military is actually part of this, but they're here to honor our veterans, right? It's their day. So,
talk about the floats. How many floats this year?
So we've got 24 floats, ranging from, we got a lot of sponsor floats, of course, companies that are, and these are companies that are sending their veterans.
This coming for us, these guys?
What's that? Yeah, probably.
and cut.
Full disclosure.
Pick it up and run.
About 30 minutes before we set up here, we were actually walking around with the community affairs guys, so we're good.
We should have kept them around.
Craig said it was okay. Yeah. No, but we got 24 floats, a lot of corporate partners, and they're bringing their veterans, right? It's they engage their veterans. I mean, we got some of our partners fly in veterans from around the country and even around the world to participate. That's one thing we've seen, is that what we do here in the United States, countries with a global presence are looping in their overseas veterans as well, especially with what's happening overseas now. But in addition to that, we have veterans groups, Vietnam veterans, Wounded Warrior. We'll also have representatives of our allies here, NATO, all the allies that traditionally celebrate November 11th, they'll be here. But of course, the Koreans will be here. That family of democracies, if you will all be represented. We'll have junior ROTC, the next generation, the future generation of service will be here. So yeah, I mean, it really will be a snapshot of the mosaic of the veterans community here in New York.
So we said we're sitting here at the start. The grandstand's going to be kind of behind me over to the right. Just up a little bit, and the Marshall area, comes down, right here,
Right.
around this loop, on where 24th Broadway, kind of hit Fifth. Where's it as everybody comes through this Marshall area and goes up? Talk about the route and the significance of the route.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, this right here is Broadway. Broadway then comes down and heads over this way. So this is our chute. So we feed the chute in, and then Fifth Avenue here. This was actually, as Mark alluded to, in 1919. We have right here you can kind of see behind us where the flag is, the Eternal Light Flagstaff, and that was actually, there was a flagstaff there erected in 1918 while World War I was still going on. So Fifth Avenue has always kind of been that welcome home for veterans, honoring service route. So you've had here, like the Harlem Hellfighters, that famous African-American regiment mustered here for their welcome home. You had General Pershing came up for his welcome home. The Fighting 69th, Wild Bill Donovan, who later led the OSS, he marched this route.
Jedburgh.
Jedburgh.
Founding member.
Who you may have heard of. Yeah, so I think there's actually a photo we can find of Wild Bill on horseback leading his regiment up the street. So this route has a lot of significance, and even before then, Fifth Avenue is the heart of New York City. So we've taken over Fifth Avenue before, other than the parade. But even before then, you'd have Memorial Day, you have Evacuation Day honoring the Revolution. But this is the place where you do things in New York City, and there's no more parades allowed on Fifth Avenue. We're grandfathered in, so this is really significant. And we take the city over, we cut it in half, and we make everyone's traffic lives miserable, but everyone comes out and supports us because it's the Veterans Day Parade. And if I have time to talk to you on November 11th, I'll tell you about the time we cut the city into 3 pieces, but that's a whole other story.
You mentioned the Eternal Light flag behind us. And that's where the opening ceremony is going to be. And then there's the wreath laying. Talk about the significance of the wreath laying.
I think it's about tradition. A large part of what we do in the military is about tradition. This is where everyone comes together, all the VIPs for the parade. We have a couple of admirals and generals that are coming. We have our friends from overseas, which is great for Ryan and I because we actually travel overseas and visit. I've been to the Queen's birthday, so has Ryan a couple of times, and now we bring our friends back. So we're sort of like the foreign exchange students for the parade, right? So we travel there, we go over to France and Belgium, and now everyone comes back to participate in our parade. So they'll all be part of it. There's basically going to be 3 groups of wreaths that are going to be laid. We're going to have our allies go first, then the generations of veterans, and then we're going to have the active military. And then to close it out, we're going to have the last wreath is for the New York City Veterans Day Parade. It will be laid by our Grand Marshal, Nick, who is our chairman, Angie Owen, who's a Marine veteran, and then the mayor of New York. So out of that group, though, we found out today, I don't know why, but it's so hard to find Korean War veterans. It's easier to find World War II veterans than it is Korean War veterans. But we were very lucky that we actually found a Korean War veteran who lied about his age, joined when he was 16, went over in the first wave, and was actually captured as a POW and survived.
Wow.
So those are like the stories that we love to get out there and be able to tell before that generation is actually gone.
Wow. You mentioned the Grand Marshal. This year's featured service, because it rotates every year, is the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
So what do we have to look forward to with them as the featured service and the Grand Marshal?
Well, I mean, the Coast Guard and New York City have a very tight relationship, right? It's the port city. Coast Guard is on point, on duty every day in New York. Mark and I have had a chance to see them at work, doing the difficult, dangerous things that you don't even think about happening every single day.
I think the smartest guys who go into the military, men and women, go into the Coast Guard. You get to live on the water.
Yeah.
You get to do some pretty cool stuff, and you have the same benefits as you do if you're in the rest of the service.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know about that. Those Air Force guys are pretty smart.
Yeah. But there's a lot of golf.
I'll tell you though that by and large, every single Coast Guardsman that and woman that I've spoken to asks, why did you join? Because I want to help people. Yeah. I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to help people. That's just across the board a refrain. So they'll be here, and people don't know, I think people have some awareness that the Coast Guard has been, deployed overseas, and they were the guys who drove the Higgins boats at Normandy on D-Day. A lot of those famous pictures are from Coast Guard. But even now today, we've had a chance to speak with, and they'll be featured in the broadcast, Coast Guard service members, including women who deployed to the Middle East. So they're still deploying overseas. They're still out there on the front lines, in addition to what they do for us here at home.
Yeah, I look forward to having that conversation with them when we get here.
Absolutely, yeah. For us as a Marine, the one Medal of Honor that was bestowed upon a Coast Guardsman was at Guadalcanal.
Wow.
He came to the rescue of the Marines that were storming the beaches.
Yeah.
So, and Vince Patton is our Grand Marshal. So he is the 8th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard ever, and he's the first African American to hold that position. The guy is amazing, dynamic speaker. Can't wait to get him on. Yeah. We'll get him on with you guys. Yeah. But he's also like an educated Tyrannosaurus. He actually joined, enlisted, and then got his PhD, went up through the ranks, got his PhD while he was on active duty. So, and he's been involved in 50 rescue missions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to question him on all of them.
No, he's a great guy to talk to about leadership and mentoring and all that stuff. He's really just a fantastic guy.
Yeah.
Well, we've spoken a lot about what we're going to do with the podcast on Veterans Day. And it's a whole event for us. Mark, you and I talked about it back in April at Go Ruck Games, and so appreciative of you bringing the Jedburgh Podcast and my team in the partnership with UWVC. But we're going to do Chad 1000X in the morning.
You are.
I am. Okay. Sarah Apgar and I are doing Chad 1000X in the morning. We're getting the crew together. We got some great organizations supporting us. Roan's supporting us. Retro Fitness is supporting us. We're bringing in 18 Alpha Fitness. Jersey Mike's is coming in to sponsor the hospitality.
That's awesome.
And Analytics Solutions is coming in. So we have a whole group that we've brought in to go over here
on the Eternal Light flag.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to do Chad 1000X.
Wow.
So I think it's going to be between 6:30. That's the time we're putting out. Be there at 6. And I think this stuff's a little higher than 20 inches.
Yeah.
But the other spot I
Everyone
saw
likes
was
a
the
challenge,
fountain,
though, right?
but why not? You know? Look, we're doing it for veterans.
There you go. I'd be right there with you. But the night before is the Marine Corps birthday.
I'm
a Marine
gonna be
veteran,
at that
so
too.
yeah.
But then after that, we've talked about the new Jedburgh Podcast vehicle, the 1944
Yeah, can't wait to
Dodge
see it.
WC 51. All right, that we're bringing it down here as soon as I can get this thing started. And we're bringing it down, and we're going to set up just north of the grandstand, and we're going to call a parade. We're going to do a series of live broadcasts. We're going to do a number of recorded episodes. We're going to bring in all the key players who are going to be in attendance. We're going to talk about the meaning of the parade. We're going to talk about their service. We're going to talk about the different units that are coming by us as the parade actually passes. Really impactful opportunity to come down here, have a very meaningful experience under this theme of Here We Are.
Excellent.
We're bringing awareness to it. We're honoring those who've served before us and who continue to serve. And I can't wait. It's only a couple days away.
November 11th, here we'll be, right?
That's right. And the traffic will be going in that direction.
That's right. Uptown.
If you see traffic coming in this direction, we have problems.
Well, for now, we need to Here We Are ourselves somewhere else besides this corner. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Absolutely. Awesome.
American Jedburghs went out to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As a former member of Special Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast donates a percentage of all proceeds to the Green Beret Foundation, supporting America's Special Forces and their families. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.